Give us free. Give us free.
Your Honor, please instruct the defendant that he cannot disrupt these proceedings with such outbursts.
Give us free.
If we are to have any semblance of order in this
Give us free.
Peace, unity, and welcome my conscious and unconscious family and friends. This is the all-new Black Village Community Podcast, and I am truly your host of the show, JC, aka Afro Black, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut, without any fear, as I use my mic as a spear to chucker you with liberated truth. I am your host and your native soldier in the struggle. My purpose and mission for this show is first to enlighten, inform, and engage. And I want to engage with all who claim to know the truth. All truth seekers and my native family, I welcome you. This show is dedicated to all our indigenous native ancestors and to all those who've carried the mantle of truth, and to every person with the ability to throw off the chains of comfortable habit and unwarranted assumption and move in a new, liberated direction that is guided by truth and observational evidence, no matter where that direction may lead you. My main objective and purpose here is freedom, mind, soul, and spirit. That being said, welcome to the Black Village Community Podcast, and much love from our great universal goddess and mother of all, living here and above.
AC in the house.
The Matrix. Do you want to know what it is? The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage. A prison. For your mind, for your mind, for your mind.
Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people. Aboriginal means the original inhabitant of a land from the earliest times. The ancient mound builders that built and designed the pyramids right here, not just by the Nile, contrary to popular belief and denial. Pyramids and huge hieroglyphics and pictographs on the ground are all mounds found around the Americas, North, Central, and South, even Venus and Mars. That is documented fact that emanates from my mouth. So who exactly were these aboriginals here, whose ancient evidence of residency is hesitantly mentioned in this hemisphere? Were they the stereotypical Native American so-called Red Indians? Well then, let's be clear, ask any of their tribes if they're sincere, they'll tell ya those mounds predate their origins. Our past was erased and replaced with lies, our achievements and identity plagiarized. We got amnesia of who we are, but we go way back further than the seats in your car. Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people. Aboriginal people.
This is how we ride and roll. Soldier for life for sure.
Hey, this is JC, aka Afro Black, and I am here with you for another delicious Black Sunday, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut here on the Black Village Community Podcast. And I am here for another delicious Black Sunday to drop nothing but the raw and uncut. Today's podcast subject matter is a continuation of the week of, not last week, because I wasn't here last week. I took a break last week. I took a sabbatical last week. I took, to research, to relax, and to meditate and think about the things that I want to share with my community, on this subject matter of today's podcast topic, which is a part 2 titled Amerindian Traditions and its Cultural Connection to the Negro Slave. Again, that is Amerindian Traditions and its Cultural Connection to the Negro Slave. So let me turn down my freedom music a little bit here, and let me also change it up and give us something more easy to vibrate to. How about something like, there you go, some J-Bach. As always, I'd say that whenever I talk about my Native American heritage, whenever I talk about our Native American heritage, and when I say our, I'm talking about black people who are native to North America. Those of us who, many of us who have our genetic makeup traced all the way to slavery and the founding of this country. Those of us who don't know anybody outside the U.S. other than our family, who are our family members, aunts, uncles, grandparents, and cousins who are stationary to the U.S. in North America. We might have some extended family. Maybe somebody in your family married somebody who's Italian, or maybe somebody in your family married somebody who's Japanese, and that family has extended family outside the U.S. But you yourself, as a so-called Black American or so-called African American, your bloodline is stationary. Your family, far as what you remember and what you know and what you've been told, is right here in North America. I'm talking to those black folks. These are the black people I'm talking. I'm not talking about immigrants. I'm not talking about somebody who immigrated here. Maybe their grandparents or great grandparents immigrated here, and so they say they're not an immigrant because they were born here. But your grandparents immigrated here. Your grandmother and your grandfather from Ireland, or your great grandmother, or your grandmother and grandfather from Japan, or Korea, or wherever, from England. But Black Americans who know that they are the children of slaves, we're the ones who have the deepest residuals of brainwashing, assimilation, as well as a lost identity. And so that's who I'm talking about, and that's who I'm talking to. And I'm not here by myself. I'm not here alone as usual. I got my sidekick. I got my partner, my counselor, my lover, my friend, my everything. My queen is here. Go ahead and chime in, queen.
Hello, my beautiful people.
And so we're going to chime in on this together. And if you want to join the podcast, if you got something you want to share, if you got something you want to add to the discussion, if you got some extra evidence that I don't have, because I'm all about adding to my knowledge and adding to my insight, because I don't know it all. That's why I got a queen who helps me when I'm not on the scene and when I'm off on some things, and she bring me back online, and then I'm feeling all fine. You feel me? So this is what we do here. We network here at the Black Village. We share, and we all about coming together as a people. That's what Native American people did. That's what African people did. You feel me? So chime in. It doesn't cost you a dime, just a bit of your conscious time. You can join in at area code 855-445-9340. You can also chime in at 857-232-0155. And don't forget the key to get through the conference door to sit with us at the Conscious Table of Truth, which is 947595. So to continue our discussion on Amerindian traditions and its cultural connection to the native Negro here in America. As I did the week before last, the Sunday before last, as I shared with my conscious community on this subject matter, we talked about the food that connects us to our people, you know, as amongst all the lies we've been told. And you know what, people, you got to connect this thing like a puzzle. You got to be an archaeologist. You got to be, you see, you don't have to be an accredited archaeologist to be an archaeologist. You can be your own archaeologist. You feel me? You can be your own anthropologist. You know, is that true, Queen?
Pretty much. I mean, you're just talking about doing all the research and finding the material that's already out there, but it's hiding from us. So.
Exactly. Put the pieces of the puzzle together. This is what the white man doesn't expect us to do. You know, I mean, look at what they've, you know, look what they've did, you know, over the years, and the bywords and labels that they've called us. You know what I mean? You know that the black man is lazy and the black woman is a whore, and you know, I can give a damn about what the white devil says, but if you're going to be intelligent, if you're going to call yourself a person of truth, then you need to walk in that truth. If you're going to call yourself a person of intelligence, then you need to practice and walk in intelligence. And so that means we have to educate ourselves. That means we have to be wise and insightful and intuitive. And that means we're not just on a spiritual level, but even on a physical level. So what I've done and what I've been doing is I've been trying to connect these cultural traits that I noticed that are in the black community. You feel me? And the cultural traits that I've connected so far from last week is that I noticed that black people love to eat. We love to eat. We love to come together and eat. Is that not, Queen? Is that not true, Queen?
That is family. That's what family does.
That's what, I mean, now I know that's something that all people do, but I'm not talking about all people. I'm talking about a specific people. I'm talking about my people. I'm talking about what represents who I am as a black man. Yeah. And black people like to eat. Okay, we like to eat, and there's certain things that we like to eat that is very stationary to us as a people. And one of those things is what black people call soul food. Regardless if a black person eats soul food or not, they know about it because somebody else in their family eats soul food. You feel me? And so from that aspect alone, it's easy to make connections and to bring things into line to find out what is it connected to culturally in the past. And we all know that soul food stemmed off from the slave on the plantation. Mm-hmm. So I was just curious about what type of foods did Native American people eat, and due to the fact that speaking for me myself, that my grandmother is Cherokee and Choctaw. Well, she's Cherokee, and on my grandfather's side, there's the Choctaw, and I'm also hearing that there's some Blackfoot. I'm going to have to do some more research on that. But just the Cherokee and the Choctaw, I want to know, you know. And when I did my research, finding out that the Cherokee and the Choctaw, even though the Cherokee is a very large nation, and they were not only in the South, but they were also in the West and Northwest as well, as far as locality. But just talking about the Choctaw, because my grandmother's from Shreveport, Louisiana, so I'm talking about the Cherokee and the Choctaw out there. And the Choctaw and the Cherokee were tribes that were next to each other. They did things together. They came together on things. They even fought together. And so I want to know, what did they eat? What was a part of their natural, normal, indigenous diet? And so finding out that they ate things like, you know, collard greens, turnip greens, pokeweed, finding out that a lot of dishes that I grew up on, like hot water cornbread, grits, black-eyed peas, squash. You know, my grandmother ate a lot of squash. My mother, I love zucchini squash to this day because my mother and my grandmother used to cook a lot of zucchini squash, as well as other squashes. Butternut. You know, I wasn't too keen on butternut. Lima beans. I wasn't too keen on lima beans. My mother ate a lot of lima beans. My grandmother ate a lot of lima beans. So finding out that Native American people, a lot of the dishes that I grew up on, like cornbread and hot water cornbread, and frying your fish in cornmeal and eating grits and things that they need, finding out that was a Cherokee cuisine, or they wouldn't use the word cuisine, but it was a part of the Cherokee diet for them to eat this way. And then seeing that slaves that the native slaves on the plantation ate this way. Even though the white man took away their name, took away their traditions, took away their customs, took away basically their cultural awareness, for some reason, even though somebody who used to be Buffalo, running Buffalo, maybe that was his native name before he became a slave, and her name might have been Starlight or Running River, whatever her name might have been, and the white man took away their cultural names from them and gave them these English or so-called Christian names. So now they have new names, and then forced them to do the same with their children, to give their children these so-called white names, to take away their cultural connection from their tribal people. That's what this white man was doing. And so to see that these people still had the residuals of their native traits, like the food, and then finding out that slaves also practiced making corn husk dolls. And what cracks me up is that when I was doing my research, and I want to share this with you, Queen, I'd like to hear your comment on this. When I was doing my research on the corn husk dolls, it was not easy to find information in the essence of them talking about the history and the tradition of it. You have a lot of white folks out there, white people get a hold of something, and it's all about, they try to make it seem like it's a tradition when it's really an economic tradition for them to make money off of and to exploit it, whatever way they can exploit it and try to say, and then try to connect their own culture to it. I mean, I was on one site that said that, the Irish and the Scottish and the Celts, they made corn husk dolls and all. And I'm like, wow, these white devils, they need to quit. So I had to get away from, and they tie it to a lot of museums and things like that, So I wanted to know the history behind it. So I had to go even further and do research specifically on specific tribal nations that practice the custom of corn husk doll. And then I got the information where they, that it was the Native Americans who passed this tradition on to the Europeans. And they tried to say, crack me up in the same paragraph while I was reading this. They tried to say, well, and they passed it on to African slaves. Crack me up with that again, because as I said, the people who were enslaved on plantations, I will continue to say this, they were not Africans. They were Native Americans. And those Africans who were brought here, they were basically bred out of existence. They were bred out of existence. The whole point of them bringing African slaves here has a twofold agenda behind it. One part of it, and it has nothing to do, they didn't have enough slave labor. That's a lie. That's, from my opinion, from my research, from what I've studied, I'm for one thing, I'm not going to follow the tradition of the white devil telling me how to think. When I do my research, I draw my own conclusions, and from my own conclusions, from what I've read, from what I've researched and studied, there was a twofold agenda behind bringing African slaves here, and it was not because there was a shortage of labor that they needed more slaves. Number one, it was because they wanted to deepen the amnesia and the loss of identity from the native slaves that were already on the plantation. So by bringing in Africans, it gave them an excuse to call them all Africans or call them all Negroes. And due to the fact that these people had a loss of identity in their own native country, bringing another people from another land, thinking that these people will bring their traditions and their customs and their practices to the people already in North America, that would deepen their amnesia and their loss of memory of knowing who they are. Okay. And the second reason behind it was to create a whole new people. See, that's one thing about the white man. He just loves to create so he can kick back and enjoy his creations. He likes that. He takes pride. It's almost like a person who he's an egotistical individual. Would you agree, Queen?
Absolutely.
White man got the biggest ego in the universe. That's why Superman, the character, still persists to this day.
True.
Superman, who calls himself Kal-El. Come on, Queen. When we saw that, we said, what this man called himself, Kal-El.
Calling himself the power of God.
Calling him, exactly. That's an ego trip.
Sure
so let me, Another thing I wanted to also mention is, and you mentioned to me before we started the show, Queen. I mean, and I about Thanksgiving. I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. We don't celebrate Thanksgiving.
Nope.
And so it really hurts my heart when I see black folks celebrating Thanksgiving. And it hurts my heart for a number of reasons. And one reason is because of their ignorance and their lack of knowing the truth. Celebrating a holiday that basically was founded on the perpetuation of massacring Native people in this country. And so then, people try to find all types of just reasons for acknowledging this holiday that's only reason for existing today is for economic prosperity for those who are controlling 99% of the wealth in this country. And the second reason is to continue the perpetuation of celebrating their conquering the people who were already here. You can't discover something that was already discovered. So it's just, it hurts my heart, and I didn't tell you, Queen, but my neighbors, I think it was after I dropped you off at work. I'm not sure I picked you up, and brother said, happy Thanksgiving. And I told, sometimes, you don't know how to respond to that because you don't want to give the person the idea that you celebrate Thanksgiving. At least I don't. So,
No.
I just tell a person, and he was walking, and I know he was like moving fast. Look, I don't celebrate Thanksgiving, man. He said, he looked at me, huh? I said, no, man, I don't celebrate Thanksgiving, bro. But I didn't want to say thanks for the gesture because I don't see it as a,
Yeah.
You feel me, Queen? So
I feel you.
So black people need to wake up. We need to embrace our own customs, our own holidays, our own festivities. And we need to teach this to our children. It was the whole thing about being Native. To be a Native American, just like what it is to be African conscious. To be African conscious is to indulge in African principles, to indulge in African awareness, African culture. And so this is what the white men have stolen from the black woman and the black man, the indigenous black woman and black man of North America. He's stolen away our customary practices. And as a result of that, we don't practice Native American customs, and we don't see Native American customs, festivities, and practices as ours because the white men worked so hard on tearing those things away from us. And as a result, those Indians today who call themselves Indians, even though most of them are white people, most of them are a hybrid mix of white European blood and mostly white European blood.
You must be talking about those recognized tribes.
Yeah, those so-called recognized tribes that the white man giving money. The white man don't mind giving a whole lot of money to his own people. He don't want to give money to nobody else. When the white man took land from the Native American and gave it to white people for pennies on a dollar, and in some cases for free, huh, Queen?
Yep. All they do is just claim that they were Native.
All they had to do was just claim. They didn't have to prove nothing.
Nope. Just claim it.
Gave them portions of land on reservation, when reservation was supposed to be specifically for those who were indigenous to North America. White man made excuses to give it to his white children. Now black folks kick back, and then we turn around and say, we think we free. How you free when you don't care about knowing who you are? How are you free when you disenfranchise your children from their cultural heritage? How are you free when you allow a system, you allow coon elite house Negroes who call themselves educated when they're number porch monkeys to the white man to tell you who you are?
All you have to do is know your family and your family tree.
Well, see, that's the thing. The family and the black family, and not all black families, but most black families, especially urban black families, are so discombobulated, so segregated, and so chaotic towards one another. They don't listen to each other. They don't listen. They don't sit down enough to listen to the oral traditions in the family, that grandma, great grandma. You feel me?
Yep.
And it's really sad because
You're not going to know who you are if you don't listen.
that, as well as what's really also sad, is the fact that the reason why a lot of black people did not share their native heritage, culture, and traditions and customs with their children. And from somewhere between, I would say, 1865 of the Emancipation Proclamation of freeing slaves from slavery, from the physical bondage, to the industrialized period of the early 19th century, somewhere in between there, black people just did not continue tradition. I know a part of that reason is due to the fact, and me and my brother was talking about this earlier. Part of the reason why is because a lot of black people who were enslaved, and due to the oppression of white supremacy, black people still had that slave mind of not talking and not sharing.
Well, they were severely punished if they said they were Native American too. Because they were the darker skinned natives. They weren't the lighter skinned natives.
And obviously that oppression carried on into the family. So they not only did they not talk about it at work, they didn't share it with their friends, but they didn't even share it with their family. The white men, that oppression actually was strong enough that the elders in the family didn't share it like they should have. Now, you had some that did. Mm-hmm. Some they did. Even though, the white man was trying to also take away those who had documentation. He still today, you got black families with some documentation proving who they are, even though the documentation, in my opinion, don't mean crap. And it doesn't mean crap. People shouldn't even take pride in the fact that they got some paperwork. What cracks me up, you got a lot of these black Indians who take pride in the fact that they got some paperwork. Paperwork don't mean crap to the white man. You know why? Because he's the one who created it, and he can ignore it like it don't exist, and he does that. I've heard too many stories. I've seen too many documentaries where black people got documentation on what tribe they're from, who their grandparents were, and the federal government plays with it, has it sitting in limbo. They waiting to get some acknowledgement, and it's just sitting in limbo, huh, Queen?
Yeah.
The government don't respond. The tribal boards don't respond. And that's because these tribal boards, they full of nothing but so-called hybrid white devils. And then the federal government is controlled by white devils because it was founded by white devils. So paperwork don't mean nothing. What matters is what we embrace as a people. What matters is what we embrace as a unified people. And that's what we need to do. We can't be waiting on the AIM, American Indian Movement. Fuck them, okay? Because they ain't did nothing for the black community, ain't trying to do nothing for the black community because they too tied up and got their head up the white man's butt, and they're full of hybrids as well. Raw and uncut just like that here on the Black Village. So, on that note, I do have an audio I got some audio I want to play, okay? And this audio that I want to play to me is going to give, actually what I'm going to replay again. And if it's driving people crazy, then so be it. Because I think we need to hear it. And I think we need to hear it and hear it and hear it until it vibrates into our psyche what this white devil has done to our people, to our parents, to our grandparents, to our aunts, our cousins. And the reason why there's so much chaos in the black community, because of the lack of self-awareness. And as a result, we don't see our brother as our brother. We don't see our neighbor as an extended family. And the Native Americans saw other tribes as extended family. Is that true, Queen?
Yeah, that's true.
Even the African saw his African brother who wasn't a part of his tribe as an extended member. So, I want to play this, which is Lord Jamal again. And I'm playing this because I have another audio track that I want to play of a sister who discovered her Native American heritage, and just her little short brief story is not that long. Her story, I'll cut it down to about 4 minutes, but I want to play Lord Jamal right quick, and then we should continue to vibrate on Amerindian traditions and its cultural connection to the Negro slave.
But meaning that black people didn't choose to be in America. They were forced.
Well, we didn't choose to be under this system. First of all, there's a lot of evidence that is coming up recently that's showing that we was already here, that we are the fucking Indians. We are the fucking Indians that they found here, And in order to make us not rebel crazily, they made us think we was from somewhere else. We are the fucking Indians that they found here. And in order to make us not rebel crazily, they made us think we was from somewhere else. Now,
What?
listen. You get here, right? Columbus and them motherfuckers get here. Mm-hmm. They got guns and all of that, so they fucking subdue, the older generation or whatever. But the older generation is always going to fight and always going to hold on to their shit. So you go to the next generation now, who doesn't know. We were talking about the disconnect before. Just in one generation from you know what I mean? One generation, motherfuckers don't know who Big Daddy Kane is. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So imagine, we were talking about the disconnect before. Just in one generation from you know what I mean? One generation, motherfuckers don't know who Big Daddy Kane is. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So imagine you got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 generations. Even in just that one generation, if I separate you from your parent and tell you, you're really from Africa. We stole you from Africa and brought you across the sea. And, you're really from Africa. We stole you from Africa and brought you across the sea and brought you to this land that is not yours. So your land is actually somewhere over there. Over there. There's a big percentage. This is why black people and American Indians have always had a certain camaraderie.
You're saying that there are Native Americans that look like they're Africans.
Yes.
Already in this country.
Yes. And there's statues and all kind of shit to prove it.
There you go, right there. That's Brother Lord Jamar from the early 1990s group Brand Nubian, but the brother still is very vocal out there, speaking the raw and uncut truth, as you heard him explaining on in an interview on Vlad TV about what he believes has been done to the black community. And that, that brother's suspicion is positively and absolutely is validated by historical truth. Because that is exactly what the white devil has done. That's exactly, he played on time. He played on manipulation. He played on what is called assimilation. Assimilate the parent, break down the parent, reprogram the parent. Now the kids will be reprogrammed. That's what he did. That's exactly, and what cracked me up is that a lot of black people already suspect this, but they don't talk about it. They don't verberate on it. They still allow the system to tell them who they are. Is this true? What do you think, Queen? Go ahead. Come on, man. Let me verberate on this with me. Let's conversate on this thing here, because this is what I see.
But that's true. I mean, the people do still let the system tell them who they are instead of their parents and their grandparents and their and their family telling them who they are. It is not up to someone else to tell you who you are, but your family tells you who you are, where you came from, your ancestry, and your traditions that were and pass those things on. And the broken family is helping the agenda of not listening to who you're from, because they've broken the family.
They've broken the family so bad that, the young brothers have been programmed to live in a warrior survival loss mode. They're lost. They're like lost soldiers who are trying to survive, and the streets has been their parents. Mm-hmm. The prison system has been their father. The streets has been the mother, and the young women. It's not just brothers. Young girls are in that same mode now. You got young girls that got that same ghetto street mentality, where they're in a survival. They're constantly in a survival mode. So everybody they come in contact with is all about manipulation and game plan. And so they so lost, they don't know the difference between how to be honest, how to be real, how to be truthful, because they've been manipulating all their lives, gaming all their lives for a point of survival. Yeah. So the generation is jacked up and messed up. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It's going to take strong, self-aware, conscious mothers, sisters, aunties, grandmothers, to wake up our community. It's the women that breed us into existence that's going to be the women that's going to have to reprogram us or program us back to the perspective where we belong as a people. And we have to be self-aware, embrace the truth of who we are. We aren't African people. Stop letting the white devil, stop letting the school system, stop letting the federal government, state and county governments, stop letting these white devils and these coon elitists tell us who we are. So, on that note, I got this other audio cast that's going to continue the discussion of what we're having in reference to us as the Amerindian traditions and cultural connections, basically connecting us to our people. So let me play this right quick and we shall return.
This is their mom, which is where my Cherokee comes from. Her mom is half Cherokee, her grandfather. My great-grandfather is full-blood Cherokee. This is on one of my grandmother's visits to Seattle when I was a little girl. This is my grandmother here, my mom. And our travels down south, standing in front of the car. I think this is in front of my grandmother's. And the other person in the picture is my sister. My grandmother, I never heard her talk about being Indian. As much as, I don't really recall them talking about our heritage as much until she passed away. Our family is really spread out from New Orleans to what they call the country. Hoping to take a trip this summer, get more information about, the family and the lineage and everything.
The best advice I received from an elder when I struggled with being mixed race was to be asked, so which one of your grandmothers then is unworthy of you recognizing her? And that really struck home for me. There is no grandmother that you can look at, no matter what color you are, no matter what background you come from. There isn't a time where you can look at one of your grandmothers and say, her Irish heritage is unworthy of me, or her black heritage is unworthy of me. I define myself as a Muskogee Creek woman of African American and Irish Scot descent. I was adopted transracially, and my parents were white, and I also had a Korean daughter and a white son. For me, my personal experience, I felt very cocooned by the urban Native community. There seemed to be a responsibility by those Natives that were my parents' age to ensure that I was part of the community because I had been adopted out. I think what's weird for me is that I'm not considered African American enough for people to watch what they say around me in Indian country, so the N-word is used in front of me because the reasoning is, what do you care? It shouldn't bother you at all. Look at you. And it does bother me. But for the most part, I would find that in the urban Indian communities, it's really not about anti-African American sentiment. It's pro-Native sentiment. Are you Native or not? They don't care whether you're mixed with black or not. Are you Native or not? The children, I think sometimes they think I'm too hardlined or too traditional, and then in other ways they're even more traditional. When my older daughter got her hair cut, she was just mortified that they had to cut her hair, and she was very concerned about making sure that the hair was properly taken care of by somebody in our community. And yet she had to endure the misunderstandings that go with going into a black hair salon and saying, I need you to keep all this hair and I need you to put it in a bag and don't, touch it and don't, mix it with other hair. And having the people that are there want to, be interested. Y'all doing some voodoo stuff in there? Y'all doing, what are you going to do? And that kind of realization that, you know, you're looking across the table at a black person talking to you, and usually as a black Indian you're thinking, well, now I can tell you're black Indian, but you know nothing about your heritage, and this moment right here in the hair salon is a moment that's a cultural difference,
There you go. I want to play that, and the reason why that was important for me to play that is to point out the fact she said a couple things. She said a lot of things, but the things that stood out to me that I thought was really important. Number one, before I go into the number one important thing, let me start with the second important. Let me start at the bottom. And I'm saying that because of what this is, what I'm going to say. She pointed out the white supremacy on the Native American in the Native American community on the reservation. How she heard the N-word used a lot, and the fact that she is a Native American, and see, this is where the confusion. She says she's Mohican Creek, Scottish, Irish, Scottish, African American, or that's what she said. Okay, number one, there is no difference. There is no difference between Black American and Native American. Black Americans are Native American, but that's the confusion within the reservation, because the reservation is not operating in matriarchal Native American customs. Look, these federally recognized reservations that the government has given federal recognition, okay? I can't say all of them because I don't know all of them, but a lot of them are operating under European colonial white supremacy traditions and customs. And we might say customs and traditions. Yes, a part of the European custom and tradition is segregation, is separation, and white supremacy. To separate themselves from other people. Native American people never did that. If you embraced the Native American way, didn't matter what your ethnic background was or were. And this is, and not only that, this is the reason why it was so easy for the African to be absorbed by the Native American people, is because the Native American people, by tradition, by custom, by heritage, were a matriarchal people. African people, the majority of the African tribes, and at one time all of Africa was matriarchal. So African slaves coming over here, seeing how the Native American not only believed in living in balance with nature, with animals, with the cosmos, not only seeing how the Native American did not abuse the land but honored the earth, not only seeing how the Native American, how the women were the most important part of the community and that the woman was the center of the family, but also seeing, even on a spiritual wise, the Great Spirit was the Great Spirit Mother. Yeah. A lot of these so-called tribal communities today who have federal recognition are operating under patriarchy, and that is not Native American. That is not indigenous Native American. Let me put it straight. Let me say it raw and uncut. That is not indigenous Native North American Indians. Our indigenous ancestors of North America, those Indians were matriarchal, 100%. The Cherokee, I've read it, I've looked it up, I've researched it. The Choctaw, the Creek, they were matriarchal. The Great Spirit was the Great Spirit Mother, not the Great Spirit Father, not the Great Spirit dickhead man. No. Now you got, and you couldn't be Native American unless your mother was Native American. Now you got these tribal communities breaking down all our ancient ancestors' original way of customarily doing things. Is that not true, Queen?
It sure looks that way to me.
You've seen it.
I have.
You got these blue-eyed devils with blonde hair and pale white skin. Some of them got a little bit of shade of a tan. And tell you in a minute, my grandpa was Creek and my grandma was Creek. And all. Man, goodness.
That reminds me of watching the History Channel, and they're doing that, tracing their heritage. This quote-unquote Native American group that looked like a group of white folks, to be honest, trying to trace their heritage back to Jews. And saying that this branch of the Cherokee Indians were Jews. They couldn't even trace their ancestry to Native American, let alone the Jews.
Exactly. They couldn't even trace. They were doing their best too. I mean, I got that piece too. I had to have that because
that cracked me because they couldn't even be traced by the same company that was trying to trace their whole record of their DNA to even the Native Americans they were claiming.
No, they couldn't.
That one bit, not one drop. They couldn't even find no North American anything in their traits in their family tree.
Yet this guy, they was calling themselves Eastern Cherokee. They called themselves an Eastern Cherokee tribe, and claiming that the original Cherokee people were of the Jewish people. Bullcrap.
Which it was proved to be nothing but.
Well, for one thing, the guy who called himself Chief Owl, whatever, Night Owl, whatever, Chance Standing Owl, whatever, he was a white man.
He was.
He was a white man standing there calling himself a Cherokee. You ain't no Cherokee. You a white devil. Matter of fact, talking about that, let me play this. Let me play. I had to go. Let me play this. Because this just makes me upset. Here, please play this.
Will we ever find the full-blood line of the Cherokee people? Yes.
Chief Sitting Owl's tribe only represents what he says is a small number of Cherokee, less than 1%. The Central Band itself is not one of the 3 federally recognized tribes of Cherokee. Although the Bureau of Indian Affairs openly acknowledges there are many people with Cherokee ancestry that's hard to trace.
We have a very unique situation here in the Central Band of Cherokee. We were isolated from the main body of the Cherokee in North Carolina and North Georgia.
DNA testing of more members of the Central Band is just getting underway in what's called the Abraham Moses Project. Some members of the Eastern Band of Cherokee, a tribe that is federally recognized, are very interested in the results because they too suspect a Jewish ancestry. Even if they're not Jewish, Chief Sitting Owl says the test results for his tribe are still very interesting in proving who came to America before Columbus and how.
Our Cherokee DNA project has proven that the Cherokee did not come across the Bering Sea.
94% of those tested in the Central Band showed European ancestry going back thousands of years. Exactly how far back is unknown. That could mean they aren't Cherokee at all. It could also mean they mixed heavily with white settlers in the New World. Or it could mean they are descendants of Europeans who were here even before Paleo-Indians crossed the Bering Strait.
There you go. There you go. I didn't want to play. I didn't want to play all of it. I just want to play a snippet that this group of white people who call themselves Cherokee, the Central Cherokee, and then you got the Eastern. They were waiting. They were waiting for the results because them white folks over there who are in the Eastern Cherokee tribe, they're federally recognized, and they suspect they might have some Jewish ancestry too. That's because you're a white devil, motherfucker. That's because you're a white devil. You're not an indigenous Native American. No, you're not. You are a European. You from Europe.
Yeah.
But these people have stolen. They have stolen our ancestral customs and identity. Come on, Queen. There's a whole history from ancient history on where these people just take on people's identity, and they did it to our people too.
Yep. Throughout their conquering stages, go in, conquer, claim them as them, and continue to go on.
Exactly. So, on that note, I had to get that giggle out of my system. Can't do nothing but laugh at it. You feel me?
I feel you.
So, on that note, let me go into something that some of the articles we got right here that I wanted to read from. Okay, right. I want to point out right quick to the conscious community again. You got black folks running around here perpetuating that 1 million Africans came over here, and that people like me, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm crazy. I'm going against my people. I'm trying to be something that I'm not. All that crazy monkey coon house nigga crap.
Yeah, because they trying to tell you who you are too.
Well, not only that, because if they truly believed I was wrong, then prove me wrong. Come on my show. Prove it by evidence. If you can prove it by evidence, I'll accept it.
Even if they just sent you the information.
Send me,
Just
show
proof that you're wrong in what you're saying.
I used to believe in that African stuff, that black folks was of African descent. I used to believe in that crap. But see, due to research and studying, and I give a lot of credit to a fellow brother Michael Hampton. I wish he was here with us, joining us here in the conference room. I mean, because that brother is a very wise brother. And it's just, it's not true. Black people in North America are not African. We don't look African. We ain't got no African relatives. Oh, that's because you was cut off because your ancestors were enslaved. Bull crap. Bull crap. I'll say it again. Even though Alex Haley's story of Roots is a farce and a plagiarized, mixed up lie, the story still has a message. What is that message? Kunta wanted to keep his identity alive. He wanted his children to know where he was from. He wanted his children to remember who he was and where he was from. If we are African we are mostly African, like these white devils want to lie and tell us that we're mostly African. Black people are a mixture of they're either mulattoes or they're African. You come on, you white devil. Stop lying. The lie don't work no more. It don't stop lying. It don't work no more. So, and I'm gonna help my people wake up from this lie. But then why don't black families have any African traditions, any oral traditions of any African identity?
But they do have a lot of oral tradition of that Native American bloodline.
Exactly. And the food and the customs and a lot of other things that black people do that they don't know that they do that is straight Native American. Now, but you know what, Queen, the reason why I was talking about this African thing again is because, like I say, they still perpetuating this lie. Even encyclopedia.com and a lot of encyclopedias continue this lie by teaching it to our children. Why? Because they know our children is, those who are in school have to pick up an encyclopedia once or twice, in their studies. And so they perpetuate this lie. Encyclopedia.com has it, and I quote them from their site. These crops accelerated the colonial demand for slave labor so that from 1700 to 1760, some 2,775,000 Africans were shipped to the New World, while 891,000 Europeans departed from the same destination.
It's funny how those colleges put to shame those numbers.
Then talking about grossly.
Universities put to shame those numbers by doing the actual historical research.
By doing the actual.
And putting the actual numbers together.
Exactly.
Because they wanted to know people asked, is it this number or that number? Is it this? So they did the research. Was it 3 universities you said?
Yeah. I'm gonna get to that, but look, I'm the step down where it's right. I step down right up under that. It says America's Other Original Sin Retold. This is a site that was put on by a Native American group who put this site on, and they perpetuating the lie as well. That's why I say a lot of Native American reservations, a lot of Native American organizations, they're nothing but hybrid mixed white supremacist people. That's all they are. They so mixed up. They so mixed with white blood. They've been embedded mentally with the white supremacy ideology that they continue the agenda. So check out what this site says. Even though this site gives us some good information, it also gives a lot of misinformation. It says Brett Russiford recently attempted a tally at the total numbers of enslaved and told me that he thinks 2 to 4 million indigenous people, even though the number is much higher than that, it's between 4 and 10 million. But he says 2 million to 4 million indigenous people in America, North and South, may have been enslaved over the centuries. The practice prevailed. A much larger number had previously been thought. Okay, it's not on the level of the African slave trade, which brought 10 million to America.
Wow, how did that jump from 200,000 to 10 million? I mean, first it jumped from 2 million to 10 million, And I'm sure we're going to see other places that are going to give us some type of quote.
Well, the encyclopedia.com gives a number of 2,775,000. But this Native American site over here
wants to say it was 10 million
they say
Africans. If it was 10 million, 10 million Africans.
Look. It is from 1680 to 1690. Sure. They're still... But the earliest history of the European colonists in America is marked by native bondage. If you go back to about 1680 to 1690, see, that's a misrepresentation, because Native American slavery started in around 1530 when Hernando de Soto was the first one to set foot and create a colony in North America. And the first thing he did was enslave the North American indigenous population in that area. He enslaved Native Americans and cultivated tobacco, sugar, and other things, and sent it back to Spain. And the Spanish crown was reaping all the benefits from it. Yep. So it goes much further back than 1680. So they way off. And so that's why I say, people, you got to do your research. You got to cross-reference your research. Don't just take one person's word. Don't just take two people's word. Go do the research. Find the oldest information as possible. You feel me? And so this goes right back to what you was talking about, Queen. The website slavevoyages.org. Which was made up of a number of universities that came together and put this website together, and they did the research, and they did the studying, and they broke down the numbers. I love how they broke down the numbers. Yep. And you looking at what I'm looking at, a number that I can accept. They say between 1501, when they going all the way back to when the first African was taken as a slave. They say from 1501 to 1875, when the last African was brought to North America, a number of 305,326. Now, what I love about it is that they broke it down. You would think that, Africans was here before 1626 as slaves, huh, Queen?
You would think, but
when you look at this grid, like I said, they break it down. Because between 1501 all the way, wait, from 1501 to 1625, there were no Africans brought to North America.
Nope.
Zero, zilch.
Not as slaves.
Not as slaves.
Not to be bought or sold.
The first time Africans were brought to North America as slaves, that's documented, it is in 1626. And from 1626 to 1650, they tally a number of 824 Africans was brought to North America between 1626 and 1650. I think you're looking at the wrong number. No, I'm looking at. I am. That's the number under France. My bad. Under U.S. Let me get that straight. Under the U.S., the grid. I'm looking at a grid. Okay, so yeah, I got my grid mixed up. The U.S. grid from 1501 to 1575. From 1501 to 1575, there were no Africans brought for sale to the United States.
Not to North America, not to any of the U.S. Nope.
This grid don't even look right, because
what?
That means that they changed the numbers. Look down here at the very bottom where it says a total tally, but they also give a tally right here when they says.
No, that's the same number.
Well, because see, under France it says 305.
That's France, dude.
Yeah, but it says under the U.S. 554.
A total of 554,336 Africans to the United States alone. That's it. Not the millions, not 1 million, not 2 million.
You know what? In case my grid got messed up, I think I'm finna go to the original site where I got the grid from. Unless you can pull it up right quick, because I've got some more I want to read to the conscious community. If you can pull that grid up right quick, that'd be cool. And see, make sure I didn't mess it up when I pasted it on this. Pasted it. You hear me? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you do that while I go on down right here and read some more. But I want the conscious community, because see, another thing that caught my attention. I want to read.
Yeah, it says you copied and pasted wrong.
Yeah, that's what I thought. The numbers got mixed up.
The number says from 1501 to 1625, no Africans were brought to the U.S.
So I was right.
And then from 1626 to 1650, only 824 Africans were brought.
Okay. So
a total of 305,326 was the total of Africans brought to the United States portion alone.
okay, so that's what I thought. I pasted it wrong, messed it up. That's why the numbers looked kind of messed up. But I want to read. I got something I want to read. Then that was an article that was put up by a BET writer. A person. Matter of fact, the person goes by the name Amber Skinner, BET staffer. Okay. And it was put up in September 21st of 2004. You see that article there, Queen, right up under the grid? Called The Historic Relationship Between Blacks and Native Americans. Okay. I'm going to read this one here. And it says, the historic relationship between Indians and blacks was forged right along with the foundation of America itself. The arrival of Europeans to the so-called New World, their ships laden with their cargo of Africans, which is totally untrue. Okay, she messed up on right there. But let me continue on. Triggered an internal relationship between blacks and native peoples. During the 18th and 19th centuries, for example, thousands of Africans fleeing the brutality of forced bondage found refuge in Indian nations. The union between the red man and the black man seemed only natural given the common hate for a white oppressor. Oftentimes, not only were blacks given haven, but they folded seamlessly into the flow of Indian culture, often intermarrying and reaching the highest echelons of society. European officials, fearing a unified state among blacks and Indians, discouraged them from forming alliances in an oft-used strategy of divide and conquer. Colonial officials would commission native peoples to hunt down and kill runaway slaves, and blacks were hired to hunt down and kill native peoples. You see that right there, Queen?
So they hired them to kill each other.
Yes.
Well, the thing is they hired different native groups to kill other native groups.
Well, women, one good example, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people know the story of the Buffalo Soldiers, which was a group of black people who were hired by a military regiment, which they, right after the Civil War was over, they put together the Buffalo Soldiers, which were a black regiment. And that's because these black people knew these mountains. Now, if they were Africans, how they know the Indian mountains? Yeah. The white man did not know the mountain range the way these brothers knew it. That's because these brothers were black Indians. They were Indians themselves. The term buffalo is representative of Indians. Yeah. Okay? And they used these brothers to hunt down Native American fugitives and Native Americans who the white man wanted to kill and wipe out because they were dangerous, because they were very good at military strategigs. Yeah. So
it's obvious that by this time, black folks do not remember who they were.
Exactly.
And that the new natives who have become lighter skinned and had separated themselves from their people who were enslaved have also become brainwashed.
Exactly. And they capitalizing off of that, like they still do. They do today. Mm-hmm. They capitalize off it. And I'm past my time. I might just have to continue this next Sunday because I have a lot of information on the history of corn husk doll making, which not only did the Native American, it was a Native American tradition and custom, which was a part of the Native Americans. It was a part of their heritage. So the doll husk making goes deeper than just making a doll. You even had the corn husk doll making was even part of Native American ceremonies, a part of healing ceremonies as well. Mm-hmm. And so it was also a part of their heritage to represent, because they would dress them up in their tribal wear, which represented the tribe itself. So the corn husk making is a deep tradition for Native American people, and for slaves to engage in making corn husk dolls out of nowhere, like in the movie 12 Years a Slave, where you have Patsy sitting there during her pastime making doll. Who taught her this? Where did it come from? It was because she herself, her mother, her father, most likely, or one or both or other, or one half of her family, if not her mother, maybe her father, or both parents were Native American, and they passed this tradition down to her. And so next week, I think I'll go into that, and I still have more information right here I wanted to read as well. Time flies so fast, Queen,
It does. It truly does.
So I will continue this subject matter, Amerindian traditions and its cultural connection to the Negro slave. I will continue it next week. But you know what, though, people, hey, I love my people. That's why I do what I do. You feel me, Queen?
I feel you.
You got any last words you want to tell the people before we head out of here, girl?
Well, one, I enjoyed this session today. I've been awake enough to do so. Learned a few things and, was able to help out more on the show this week. So I also would like to remind people to, to learn who you are through your family tree. Trace your ancestry. Don't depend on some website to tell your DNA. As we've spoken before on our show, our DNA tests have been proven to all been falsified by these companies just to make money.
Yeah, actually, and to piggyback off of what you were just saying, somebody said, well, you played that excerpt where they were saying that one white Native American tribe is, by DNA, they all European. How do we? Well, bottom line, you can't trust DNA companies at all because, the DNA companies are controlled by a group of Jewish people. Mm-hmm. And so they have their own agenda, and their number one agenda constantly is to perpetuate into the minds of every individual on this planet that the Jewish people are a genetic race of people, which that's not true whatsoever. Okay, anybody can become Jewish. You can convert into Judaism. Anybody can become a Jew. And so that's just my opinion. That's a whole nother subject matter. So, but due to the fact that there was a group of so-called Native American people, and that Jew person knows that Native American people, that the indigenous people here in America are a black people. They are a melanated people. And so for a white man to claim that he's Jewish and still want to call himself a Native American, the founder of FamilyTree.com, he came on television. No, they are not. They're Europeans. He just flat out just told them people, no, you're not Cherokee and you're not Jewish. You're European. So
Well, they also but they told you what they specifically looked at in that DNA test.
My point being is that they
can't actually literally trace them back to thousands of years.
Yeah, but when you watch the documentary, and anybody can go check this out on YouTube, it's called The First Americans. So I think that's what it's called, The First Americans. But when you watch that guy was just so confident that the DNA information was going to validate him as a Cherokee Jew.
True. But, basically, if you use to trace his parent, if you want to prove you are Native American, you trace your family tree.
Exactly.
Not anything else really, but your family tree. Those Native American, those people call themselves Native Americans, they weren't tracing their family lineage. No. They were trusting a website to tell a group of people what their DNA told them.
Well, and also on top of that, it cracks me up how so many white people today, they have a great-grandfather or a great-great-grandfather that took a Native American woman and most likely took her either by some reason of treaty or she was a slave and didn't have a choice. And they'll turn around and they'll piggyback off that and call themselves whatever their grandfather wife was because he took her as wife and then she became a part of the family tree. Mm-hmm. But the rest of the family line, all of them will be a bunch of white people. Yeah. And yet they want to take that one Indian woman. Just that one Indian woman is a part of their family branch and say they're Native American.
Well, because that's what, was it that geneticist said that they are supposed to do. White folks can claim that one, but no one else.
Yeah, that's what I say. That's why people want to say white supremacy is gone or it ain't like it used to be. It ain't changed. Today it's just hide that pops the head up whenever it wants to.
But people really have to face the fact that if you're born in America, that's who you are.
Now we got a president who's the face of white supremacy. But my point being is that, look, we need to do our own research. Mm-hmm. We need to come together as a people. We need to unify as a people. We need to stop letting these white devils tell us who we are because we know who we are. And I want you to know they're watching me, listening to my broadcast, following my channel and all that. And I don't know why. I ain't following them. I ain't listening to them. What they worried about? What they worried about? They ain't gonna where I'm trying to enlighten my people to their Native American heritage. What is that a problem with them? I'm pretty sure it is, because they want people to continue to think they white asses are Native and they're not.
True enough.
So on that note, we gotta go. We gotta get out of here. We be back. We be black, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut every Sunday here on the Black Village Community Podcast. You can chime in. You can join us. You can listen in. I'm on YouTube. I'm on iTunes, and you can also catch me where my webcasts and my podcasts are. All of them are sitting right there, libraried on Spreaker.com. And so I enjoyed myself. Queen, you got any last words you want to say before we head out of here, girl?
Stay united. Stay one.
And as I always say, I love chicken. So may the great mother bring us together under the wings of her peace and unity. And I love chicken, so love, peace, and chicken grease. I gotta go. See ya.
People, Aboriginal 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 people. No matter where you go in every country, we in there. Most of us did not come on slave ships, we've been here. Indian just means amalgamated more. The U.S. tried to wipe us out in 3 Seminole wars. For each Aboriginal, 7 troops died. 90% of Indians were reclassified as Negroes. We fought European foes. Africa's great, but we don't look under our nose. Or now here's the Old Man River, or the Massey Sequel, knock out the Mississippi. We're the Yamasee people, and others here like the Washita, the Chocos in Colombia, Dariendes in Panama, the Garifunas and more. We're prisoners of war. Our titles, nationalities, and birthrights ignored. We got a huge missing gap in our past, and been divided into race of some type of caste. Everyone else has a language, where's mine? Cause ours is long gone like your grandpa's hairline. Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal